Hey guys, it's Matt. This is going to be a lot of fun today. I'm sure you've all seen this diagram, or it's like a mall map to me. You are here in 2024, and surrounding where we are, all the books and movies that predicted the degradation and destruction of society, predict where it's actually going, saying it's going to get worse. If you can believe that, society and culture is going to actually get worse than what it is now. Now, it's brilliant who put this together, but we can actually improve upon it. And I know somebody that comments regularly at this channel uses this image as their avatar for YouTube. We can improve upon it and play a game today where we'll go through one by one, and I'll tell you, like starting with 1984 at the top, for example, you know I'm going to leave that. But am I going to leave They Live? See, that'll be the game. You can make slashes and recreate the chart with me, or make your own changes. And eventually we can ask somebody like Bill or somebody to put our final chart together of books and movies that reflect the complete degradation of today's society, the 2024 bastardization of what a real culture should be, and even where it's going, and it looks like it's going to get worse. But then some slight adjustments. See, there's no way out in this degraded flower of life type image, but there is a way out for us. So there's going to be a little tunnel and another circle outside where some of us are making our way to. That's the only change, I guess, to the geometry of what's here. It'll be like, remember the Family Feud where the last thing to turn over and the damn thing spun around and it made that bell ding, and our survey said, and it's like, they would try to predict what the population would say. So it's like, does Matt have 1984 in the first position? Ding! Yeah, of course I'm going to keep that in the first position. That belongs here. But does Fahrenheit 4... So I'll tell you where the changes are that at least I made to my diagram. My drawings are so horrible. There's no point in me trying to show you an image of what I have here. You can play the game with me. And if you just need a pencil and paper, and you can pause this. And then what you do is you draw a circle in the middle. You are here. And then you do a slash, a slash meaning what we're going to write in as we do this one by one. A slash at the top, say where 1984 is. 3 slashes underneath 1984. Then you come to the circle. You're here. 2 slashes off to the left where it says Brave New World and Matrix. 2 slashes off to the right. 3 slashes underneath. And a final big slash where the Hunger Games is, and meaning a slash, a place to write in our answer. So with our mall map of societal degradation, it's fortunate in starting our game that it has 1984 in one of those major, 4-corner positions. Of course, I'm going to leave that. So north, east, west, and south. We'll do the 4, that's news, by the way, the 4 corners on the outside. The 4 pillars in this case that hold up these predictions on societal degradation. We'll do that first and work inward toward you're here. So Orwell's book from 1949 called 1984. Of course, the top northern position remains. But I, in my document, removed the Hunger Games at the bottom altogether, and I'm sliding Brave New World, which is now in the western position, down into the Hunger Games position to balance 1984. Our society now, and it looks like will further devolve towards a complete blending of 1984 and Brave New World. So Brave New World has to come down to the bottom to balance 1984. We have 2 positions filled now. If you're playing the game with us at home, how many times have we seen that on television? Hunger Games is gone. Okay, here's my thinking. Look, 1984, the elements of that society, of course, exist, but it's too violent, too aggressive. Brave New World, the citizenry loved their enslavement. That's more of what we have here. What we have today is a blending of Brave New World and 1984. Hunger Games is an extension of 1984, taking the most aggressive and violent aspects even further. We're not there yet. It's more of a pacification of where they want the population to go. And then once they move everybody into the VR headset, into the digital world, there's no need for billy clubs and jackboots and torture rooms and things like that, and physical or chemical re-educations like Clockwork Orange, pinning your eyes open, remapping of the brain through hardcore harsh chemicals. And then, we're not there yet. People are generally loving their enslavement. They love their AI, and they'll love their VR headsets and their digital world. So the Brave New World is winning over 1984, but right now it's a balance. They're not going to need to go to the next step of 1984 into the Hunger Games because people just love their McRib sandwich too much and their fake Filet-O-Fish. They're loving their enslavement. So it's shifting actually more towards Brave New World. So if you're playing at home, and I'm sure you are, 1984 remains up north. Brave New World is in the major position in the south. And we have removed altogether the Hunger Games, which is a good thing, especially those of you listening to me from District 12. Okay, let's work down to the next Donkey Kong level. Under 1984, to the left. The position is occupied now by They Live. Does Matt, at least on his diagram, do you think Matt keeps that? Why are you talking about yourself in third person? Do I keep They Live, or do I remove it or change its position? I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it, but you're only going to need one. Of course I leave it in that major position. Almost nothing says not milk like the movie They Live. Now, I don't think it's aliens or whatever weird things are presented in They Live, but there is something very nefarious and evil here that people generally can't see. Of course, I don't need a Pootie Tang award and tell you about the plot of They Live, but for the one guy in Skokie that is kind of new to all this, you put the glasses on, you see 1 out of 5 people in the Starbucks is an alien, a nefarious alien trying to take over society. Can't see the alien without the special glasses. We can see the alien here. The Not-Nilks and the Not-Nilks and the Minions. Hopefully there's just one. And the Minions of the Not-Nilk, we see it, of course, through what it's trying to do. And it's not the corruption of society and culture, which we're examining here. That is, as Lecter would say, incidental, Clarice, to the only thing it wants, the corruption of the human soul, to disconnect somebody from understanding who they really are. What the creeps are up to always goes back to the same sentence. This is just a means to an end. So you old guard, y'all understand that, but it needs to be said at least once. So of course I'm leaving They Live. What can't be seen is the Not-Nilk and what it's trying to do to the spiritual aspect of real people here. We can see clearly what it's up to. Our friends and family, without the They Live glasses, just see normal circumstances, and bridging it to the parallel of the movie They Live, our friends and family look around the 7-Eleven and they don't see the aliens we do. They just see regular people. And if you see the aliens, you're one of those people. Next position, sliding over one to the right, where it says here Brazil under 1984. Do I leave it or change it? I am leaving the 80s movie Brazil. Now, I've tried to watch it a few times. I don't really like it much. But after you watch 30, 40 minutes or a little less than an hour, you get the sense as to what's going on. It's a dark comedy that mocks the way society will become, but it's very predictively accurate from whenever it was made in the early 80s. I remember one scene where they're out to lunch. These women or ladies are out to lunch, and there's a teaism event, and something in the back of the restaurant blows up, and they're so habituated, so unfazed by the craziness of their society that they don't get up, they don't run, they just continue their conversation, if I remember correctly. So, again, I don't like a lot of the way this movie's done, and a lot of the humor doesn't work on me. But in terms of sliding of population to low, really to the lowest Fiddle and Ben's level, and obviously I don't buy most of the large teaism presentations on the news. This isn't my first rodeo if you're new here, but it's still the habituation or getting people to accept a lower level every 5 years as normal, the new normal, and everybody goes along with it. And Kensington, what Kensington, Philadelphia is, with thousands of zombies on the street, drugged out on this and drugged out on that, it's just, Matt, it's just what big cities are becoming. They get used to it. And that aspect of Brazil was too well put, too well presented in the movie for me to remove it. So I'm leaving Brazil. I'm sure somebody could convince me to put something else here, if I don't already have it in other slots. So Brazil, you're hanging on by a thread, but I'm keeping you in there for now if you're playing along at home. Matt, 3 positions done and 3 leaving it as is. I mean, were you going to offer something, boy? What you got? You ain't got no creativity, old man. What toppings you got, old man? You just going to go through this and repeat exactly what's on? Okay, I guess I'm setting up that there's going to be a change coming. But if I think the first 3 are legitimate and deserve to be there in terms of representations to how society is being flushed down a toilet, I'm going to leave them. I'm not just going to insert the Muppets Invade Manhattan movie over Brazil to make a change for the sake of making a change. Now relax. I know you'd rather be out clubbing or whatever you people typically do. I'm glad you're with me. You club next week. Okay, obviously the next one's a giveaway, but Fahrenheit 451. Now that's the Ray Bradbury book from the 50s. I don't think there's a movie made. Maybe there's always a movie made from it, right? But it's about book burning and censorship. There's a lot of elements of a 1984 society. And if firemen go into a house when they find certain books, they're supposed to burn the books on site. And I never read it, but I looked at. I'll be honest. It's like from My Cousin Vinny. It's okay. You can say it. They know. I looked at the plot summary before this because I didn't want to seem ignorant, old man. I didn't want to seem like I had no toppings. Okay, there's too many elements of 1984, and of course there's too many things I need to get on this chart. You know, if it's not rock solid but needing to be there, I got to remove it because there's things waiting in line to get in. So, okay, well, let's just play along at home. I've already given it away. Do you think Matt keeps it? Or, well, obviously, I remove it. Now, when you see what goes in there, you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's way more appropriate to our situation. What do you say? What's that from? Wedding Crashers. I think the voters would understand our situation. That's when you could actually talk about somebody that made a certain lifestyle choice and make a joke about it or make fun of it and not be cancel cultured. I didn't realize until just a few minutes ago why Michael Moore, that villain, that horrible, wretched creature, Michael Moore, he made Fahrenheit 9 paired with the number 11. He was obviously mimicking Fahrenheit 451, which I didn't even put that together until now. So Fahrenheit 451 comes out, and what goes in that slot is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. No doubt about it. The download in the people around us on the Ship of Fools is real. If you haven't seen the movie for over 10 or 15 years, go see it again immediately. You'll remember watching it 15 or 20 years ago going, well, this is a fun movie and it's interesting, but in terms of if somebody tapped you on the shoulder and said, in a way, this can actually or will actually happen, you would go, get out of here. Scram. I mean, you would never, ever think this is basically happening. Now, they don't get up and point and scream. Your friends and certain family members at Thanksgiving, I hear you, but the download, the radio station, the frequency, the collective conscience that's chosen to be on the Ship of Fools is synced up to something. We don't know the mechanism, spell, or technology, but the basic principle of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is actually literal. Nobody would have believed it 20 years ago, and it is a little dark and scary, but guys, if you've been here, there's nothing, this is funnier than it is scary. I mean, okay, let the ship go where it's going to sail. It doesn't affect us. In fact, the crazier it gets, the better news it is overall for us. But let's stay to the topic here. Sliding back to the hard left like an old typewriter, it leaves us now in the Brave New World position. On the map, it would be the major Western position. Remember, I moved Brave New World down to the bottom, to the southern position, to balance 1984. Now, we can do this one quickly. I'm simply bringing the matrix over to the major Western position. The matrix slides a little to the left and is now where Brave New World is. Brave New World comes to the bottom. Now, I don't think I have to make much of an argument to the old guard as to why the matrix belongs in one of the key positions of Northeast, West, and South, but if anybody's new, say, come on, Matt, putting people in pods. I mean, isn't that, you eliminated the Hunger Games from here. Well, that's going a lot farther. Well, yeah, the Matrix in terms of its movie presentation is overdone, but if you read between the lines, there's a ton of truth in it, even regarding today's society. For example, there's little bits of truth that flow out all over the Matrix, even in legend and lore or fandom that isn't even associated with the movie. They say, well, originally they wanted the Matrix world, and they would admit this in the movie, was actually powered by the creativity and imagination of the collective conscience. That's why everyone was in pods and jacked in. The collective conscience of real people was needed as a key element to create the Matrix. That's the original fandom, where they turned it into the people in pods are just an energy source, like BTU creators, like a battery. And then they covered that up by saying, well, people wouldn't understand the first concept, what we really wanted. So just for the sake of the movie, we put it out that people are in pods just so the machine world can get energy. Well, no, the original fandom is the truth drop. This whole reality that we're in right now is powered in some way by real people. All is mind. The Big Bang didn't come first. Consciousness came first. So we could do 2 hours from now for the next 2 hours just on why the Matrix belongs here in one of the major north, east, west, south positions. They want to slide everybody in slowly into the digital world, where one day they don't even realize they're in the digital world. This has to do with the magenta and the AI. They literally want the society to go into the Matrix, and they're taking steps now to create it. I mean, what else in the Matrix? In the movie The Matrix, when they get out, right? He's rescued, the ship of the Nebuchadnezzar with Morpheus and not a fat, but a relatively in shape Lawrence Fishburne. That's not escaping the Matrix. That's just another level of illusion. That's another level of control. The parallel is very similar to much of the truth community. And yes, potentially us. We always have to keep that on the table to say we've completely won at this point and not say, well, we're just characters in the Matrix. We think we've gotten out, but that's just another level of illusion. We always have to keep that on the table or it's ignorant. All right, we could do this forever. Let's move on to the next position. So where we are back on the map is where you're looking at the diagram now, where it says the Matrix. Okay, we're in that smaller slot. We've moved the Matrix to where Brave New World is. In there, I've inserted Wag the Dog. Now look to your comments in terms of all the Cake in a Lake events, the mall events, the school events. Iran did this. And world events, most major world events that create tension or crisis are completely and utterly Cake in a Lake, Wag the Dog style fabrications. So I don't think Wag the Dog's a very good movie, I thought, should I put in the movie Network here? There's some good, in terms of just presenting, as Donald Trump would say, and that's a truth drop because he's doing it himself as a puppet of the system. Fake news, I had to put in Wag the Dog. Now, just for fun, if you're playing along at home, I don't think you should even write this in. I put underneath The Day After Tomorrow. Now, don't take that the wrong way. The movie that talks about primate change, bot, and global charming, and gets everybody scared that these giant storms. No, that's not. I'm not saying that's predictive. I'm saying that type of media is a false Al the Boar presentation. So it's like that's part of Wag the Dog, that type of BS propaganda put out in movies. So don't take that the wrong way. Don't put in The Day After Tomorrow as predictive as to what weather conditions will. No, it goes along with the theme here that even major movies are just propaganda pieces, right? I guess the Stalin's great grandchildren work for the current system. AP Thomson Reuters, soon to be the Chat GPT. So look, I don't know why, but put it in. If you're playing it along at home, just keep it as Wag the Dog. I'll look to your comments though. If there's a better, almost everything on the news that's a big deal is a fabrication movie, then we'll replace Wag the Dog because it's not very good. Okay, the typewriter slides over to the right. You are here. And boy, 20 years ago, we would have never believed it. Sliding to the right, it says here, Soylent Green. Do you think I left it or do you think I removed it? I left it. Soylent Green has to be here. Now, it's very similar to 1984, and there's other elements, but it does some things or highlights some things in a different way that those other books and movies don't. For example, just the fake foods issue, the GMOs, the harmful food and water and fluoride, and Soylent Green is the only one where the food. I know it's people, right? I'm not hopefully spoiling anything. Spoilers are not possible for a 50-some-year-old movie, but yes, Soylent Green. People want the green wafer. On Monday they get the blue wafer, and then on Wednesday they get the magenta wafer. We get the green wafer, and it has a better source of protein, but it's people. I'm not giving anything away, hopefully. And that needs to be here. It's a representation of all the fake foods. Even foods now, and I've made fun of this before, it'll say natural ingredients, and you look on the back and it's just this whatever, all these weird names. Like, well, how can you have the gall to put natural anything on the front? So, okay, that's why it's here, but there's tons of elements that are similar to 1984. But in Soylent Green, if you haven't seen it for 10 or 15 years, I see it again, how the society just slides towards the gutter, and the Agenda 21, everybody's crammed into a big city, and the Agenda 2030, and that's kind of quieted down in our truth research community, but they have they'll come out with another set of UN protocols, and I don't know, they seem to put a hold on aggressive techniques and tactics on jamming everybody together into large urban areas. They'll probably move to that strategy again soon enough, but Soylent Green showed that, and how there's this upper class that can kind of do what they want and get away with what they want, and the rules don't apply to them. And the only go-between, that could go into both worlds to a degree was the police officer, Charlton Heston, but he was in the lower level. I mean, he could go, in the course of his duties, interact with the upper class that can get access to wine and meats and real foods. And see, there's no doubt that aspect is presented a little bit uniquely in Soylent Green. It deserves to be here. For example, just pick a celebrity. I don't like Madonna. I don't know. I don't know. She turned into some sort of ghoul or something. Remember Bill Cutting from Gangs of New York? What's that? Ghoul? It's like ghoul gangs slaughters. I'm sorry. Madonna's turned into that. But remember when she was in great shape, 10 years ago and everything? Now, you just know they have access to real foods, right? You just know. When they go to get their sushi or their beef, it doesn't have the drugs, and and that's what Soylent Green kind of shows, that if there's a certain upper class that they play by their own rules, they don't have to eat the Cheetos that your broke ass has to eat. So I like what Soylent Green does there. I think it deserves to remain. Next position over to the right, where it says Idiocracy, the movie. Does Matt leave it or remove it? Well, let's just get right to it. And there's nobody in the history of the world that would believe I'd remove this. This is exactly, this could be the most truth of any of these movies and books up here. The idiocracy of the people around us. Okay, it's overdone in the movie. The person just sits there in a pile of Cheetos and scratches their balls. But every year it slides closer to that. We would have never believed it 10 years ago. So, of course, there's no reason to talk about this forever. Idiocracy remains in one of the key positions, in this case, the East. Okay, Idiocracy is the end of the row. The old typewriter rings its bell and slides back to the left and puts us at the position of Animal Farm. And we only have 4 left, but we're going to add one. We're going to add our tunnel out. We need to add a way to escape this madness. By the way, regarding the typewriter, I mean, people under age 40 have no idea what I'm even talking about. I remember I was in that weird transition era, born in 1970, where it was just the old-fashioned technology. I saw it becoming the new. So yeah, when we had typing class, my father taught it in terms of, and other business topics. We would go in high school, they had the plug-in ones, IBM Selectrics, I think they're called. A whole classroom of these giant typewriters. It was so damn loud, you needed earmuffs. But I remember my mother and my grandfather working on typewriters in the early to mid-70s that were completely manual. Everybody in the early 70s had these relics from the 60s and 50s. It wasn't, you don't plug it in. You hit the A, you had to hit the A button real hard. Then the damn arm would snap through some sort of ink band or something, but then when it was done at the end of the line, you'd done typing your sentence, you had to pull a metal arm. you had to pull a metal arm over to do the next line. If you had to type out a letter, the handwriting was much easier at this time. There's nothing to plug in, but God bless that level of that's good technology. It's not smart, and it can never be smart. You know what smart is? You know what that means? It means it's jacked into an internet grid that watches everything you do to try to learn more about the human soul, like the strangers in Dark City. Fuck smart. Sorry, let's get back to what we were doing. So the position we're on is Animal Farm, and George Orwell, if you're listening to me from beyond the grave, or he's probably alive in some way today, one of those types of entities that comes back into a body. You don't get two positions, George. You're already here with your 1984. As said, that belongs. You're not going to get your second position with Animal Farm, so that's got to go. In terms of the message Animal Farm presents, I can see why it's here, but there's too many good things waiting to get in, waiting to get on our, quote, mall map of a society that's been flushed down the toilet. So too many things that are more representative of where we are in 2024 and where they want to take it. So it's been, we read it in high school or whatever. I had to refresh on it by looking at the summary just a few minutes ago. But the main takeaway from Animal Farm is that line from The Who, come meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's that theme. So the message of Animal Farm is the farmers are repressive and the animals need to revolt. And they organize revolt, and at first it seems great. It's some sort of parallel to, Lenin in the Soviet Union or something. It seems great at first, but then come meet the new boss, same as the old boss, and certain animals, then they become dictatorial, if that's even a word. And in a way, then the revolt, then the new boss becomes worse than maybe even the farmers were. And why did we go through this? And, it's basically an element of human nature that does repeat, in so many different ways. So I see why it's here, but it's not good enough, and we're going to replace it with The Terminator. Now, there are a lot of great books and movies that could make our mall map, and of course, most people, I think, or the old guard would agree, The Terminator belongs here, but to me, and see if you agree with me, it's more about the whole concept of Skynet, what became a little bit more better understood in Terminator 2 and beyond, than the actual Terminator itself. I mean, that's coming. Boston Robotics or all that. Well, okay, but to me, it's the concept of Skynet that cements the Terminator's position here. The internet, for example, potentially becoming sentient in some way, especially now that these AI tools are added to the internet. The biggest bunch of horse shit I've ever heard. And remember, I don't know if they're still saying it, but the first 6 months or so for the Chat GPT, saying, well, we didn't give the Chat GPT and our large language models access to the internet. It only gets what we knew up till 2021. Well, then how are you? I mean, they kept saying that. It was like a reality breakdown. Well, how are you saying that when you can go online and chat with it? You're not. They said they didn't give it access to the internet, but you can chat with it online. They kept saying it. You guys know what I'm talking about. Whatever. There's a gigantic correlation, almost 1-to-1, with the slide of society and culture into the toilet and the origin of the Al Bohr internet. Look, it could already in some way, beyond the Chat GPT, be sentient. Who knows? To me, Skynet is a much greater, darker truth in the Terminator than a giant robot that can just tear your door down and come get you or whatever. I mean, they want to do that too. But to me, it's much more about the Skynet issue, which is an exact parallel to where the internet someday, with its large language models, it will go there. But the good news is, remember, guys, the rule of opposites. The more the propaganda comes out and they try to scare you with, when will the AI take over, come and scary videos. When these videos are coming from the Not Milk itself, or presidential councils, or congressional gatherings on the safety of AI, and it could take over this and that. The more the Not Milk says how dangerous it is, the rule of opposites has never been broken. The more it is not dangerous, and they want you to believe that. Maybe if enough real consciousness from real spiritual beings believe it, then it will become that. Maybe the consciousness always leads the way. Next position over, Lord of the Flies, no. If there's one that just immediately deserves to be rejected, Lord of the Flies, plane crashes on some island and the young kids or young men fight amongst themselves and there's power struggles and death. And I tried to watch it a few times, the movie. I never tried to read the book. It doesn't interest me. I don't think it was that well done. It's just kind of disturbing. There's a level of tension I don't like, and there's too many other things that represent modern society than little power struggles. Lord of the Flies, you ain't shit. Out with you. Get. And in the position goes V for Vendetta with Natalie Portman. Now, anybody's yelling at me? Okay, I hear you. Matt, this is like just a modern version of 1984. It is. Okay, let me get this out. I don't think V for Vendetta would even be here if it weren't for other major league truth drops in the movie that go beyond 1984. The scene, her name was, what was Natalie Portman's name? Evie, where somehow V, she's in his place, but he's created this facade of a jail, and she's jailed for like a year, but it's inside his place. He's created this whole fiction, which she's literally like in a solitary confinement, like the Shawshank. He's created this. She can't interact with anybody, and he's doing this to kind of break her. And this is kind of what the reality is designed to do to real spiritual beings. And these notes get passed and forth. She thinks she's corresponding with the woman in the jail cell next to her. At some point, she doesn't care anymore and loses all fear. We've talked about this in other videos. We should never stop caring. But that's the way sometimes in a movie, for example, it needs to be presented, because again, it is a movie. It has to, and somewhat entertain the popcorn crunchers, and it can't be too deep. So again, without this part, I don't think I would put V for Vendetta here, because it is, and 90% of it is an extension of Orwell's 1984. It even uses the same actor as the dictator of London in V that played Winston, was it, in 1984. Of course, that's all done on purpose. There's censorship. Somebody has a different lifestyle choice, or they have a religious book. So in the movie V for Vendetta, if you hold something that the state says you're not allowed to have, you'll be put to the gallows or to the guillotine or put in jail for the rest of your life. So, but this scene in particular, where again, she loses all fear. Okay, this is one of, if there's a few things to strive for in this life, in this reality, for real beings, it is to drop. Never can lose all of it. Okay, don't think you're not a winner if you can't get there. We're never going to be able to drop all of it, because we will always have limitations in the body, just the way this whole experience was designed. But it's like what was it? The Nina Simone clips that were put over that song I've played for you on Free Voice, just out of the blue. You know, it defined freedom. What is freedom, Nina Simone? And she's like, just kind of taken aback, and she says, no fear. She says it's more than that. There's some more elements, but if I could have that just half my life. No fear. There is no definition of freedom that is possible if there's a decent amount of fear. We will always be a little afraid in the body. It cannot, anybody that says, I can get rid of all of it, bullshit, that you're not being honest. Limitations in the body, okay? You're always going to get hungry too. It's just the way, that's okay. But to see where society wants to take what it calls the human into a constant position of fear, worry, and anxiety, and to remove 90% of it is something that, 99 point whatever percent of the people that have ever walked this earth, they have not been able to do it. So if you do just that, and nothing else, you don't understand nothing about no mall event, no fake cake in a lake events, you just drop your own fear, like whatever this grinder that V for Vendetta had to put Evie through. He had to break her, where, I don't know, some shouting into the jail cell, if you don't tell us this or do this, you're going to be sent to the gallows. And she's just like, I don't care. Do away with me. The fear of her own death was gone. And he said at the end something like, I needed to break you or break your fear. And now I know I can trust you. Now, okay, it's a movie, but what's being said I'm not really prepared to talk about it. It's very profound, and it is a parallel to what this reality is, not a hijack. No, what this reality is designed to do when people use its tools the right way. Okay, so V, for those reasons, not just because it's a little extension of 1984 and the person has a lifestyle choice and they have a Quran and they get locked up and it seems like 1984 and there's a curfew. Okay, yeah, that's 1984 times two. I'm talking about, mostly this scene with Evie and a few other truth drops where I think V for Vendetta belongs here. Metaphysical, spiritual truth drops, not just 1984 bullshit in a different package. Before we go to the position on the right, which is really the last position, let's just drop down. Remember, Hunger Games was completely removed by me. You may not have. And I put in Brave New World to balance 1984. It had to be below on the same line as 1984 because this society, if I had to pick just two of these to represent this society, I would pick the balance of 1984 with Brave New World versus anything else here if I had to just pick two. So that leaves us just with where it says here, Mad Max. Now, you think I left it? There's too many good things waiting to get in. No. Man, we're not there yet. That's similar to the Hunger Games. They don't want to take it there, in my opinion. They don't want the movie The Road to play out. Much more, they want the Brave New World type, move yourself into the digital environment, Horcrux your own soul off into Ravenclaw's lost item or into Voldemort's snake, enter the magenta digital world, cut your own spiritual self off. I mean, if you're in, The Road, the movie, or the Hunger Games, or Mad Max and survival, in some ways that can foster spiritual aspects of the human. They don't want that. They can't cut it off themselves, so the human has to cut their own Vitruvian man arm off. So that's why, again, one can become more spiritual in those types of hardcore life and death situations. That's why, in my opinion, they don't want to take it to the Mad Max or whatever Mad Max this represents. What's the first one is very strange if you've only seen, the Road Warrior and the one with, Beyond Thunderdome with Tina Turner and Master Blaster, and that's very similar to the Hunger Games. So that's not, you may disagree. They could have done that to us 150 years ago. They could have done that to us at any time. They don't want, per the technology they put out in the large language models and the AI, and they obviously don't want that because that could have been here a long time ago. One of my biggest frustrations with our brethren in the truth research community is how this dark doom and gloom creeps in too often. Now, I appreciate they kind of see what we see. This Not Milk thing in Minions, it's pretty sinister in terms of what it's up to. It's pretty dark. But this doom and gloom creeps in that defies common sense based on things that they've already done. I don't know if this is coming out right, but like the eclipse stuff, or, there was some dark, this is going to happen, the eclipse. And I said, whatever. I said a week ago or 2 weeks ago, what's going to happen? Nothing. A decent-sized portion of our brethren believe they want the worst scenes from the movie The Road to play out, or Mad Max, and a complete collapse. And there's no common sense with these people. Because I've said to them, well, so let me get this straight. What did they do? Did they intervene a little bit in 2020 with what you call See the V Me? Did they do anything to society? Did they have their sticky fingers? Yeah, they had their sticky fingers in, say, millions of places. So much so that some of it, you could call it supernatural, what the world became in 6 weeks. So we'll talk about that some other time. So whatever they wanted to accomplish, and all the millions of buttons and levers that were pushed from 2020 to 2023 with the issue See the V Me. So they did all. I'm talking like certain first grade truthers. So they did all that for nothing because they knew this end of the world type scenario would be coming, or the collapse of this, or it would soon be out your window in the streets, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. So, well, if they want that, which they could do basically in 2 months, why did they just go through all the CV stuff? Why did they do all that if everything was just going to collapse and they knew the collapse was coming? It doesn't make any sense. If they work so hard to do something from 2020 to 2023 for that presentation, which was 1,000 times larger than the 2001 7-Eleven job application presentation. They did all that. They didn't do it for nothing. Okay, so that takes the doom and gloom scenes from the movie The Road scenario off the table. Am I missing something? The first grade truthers, they just don't get it. They're always talking about complete collapse and situations where two neighbors are, let's just say, politely arguing over the last can of Spam. And because it's the last can of Spam on Earth, then it gets out of control. And the worst scenes, again, from the movie The Road, and humongous gangs coming down your road looking for, they'll take your dog and cat food because that's all there is to eat. These scenarios, they could have done to us. Well, it doesn't even make sense to say they could have done it to us at any time, because if they were going to do that to us, they would have never let the society you see out your window be built up. They would have never done what happened in 2001. They would have never introduced certain technologies. They would have never created an internet-based economy and an internet-based society with large language models and AI. They didn't do all. C the V is conditioning. It was conditioning the human for what would come. You know, we're the ones that didn't go along with it, that didn't rent no movie or whatever. We're the ones not being conditioned for what is coming or what they're bringing or what frequencies they're bringing. What are the ramifications for a body not being conditioned for what they want to bring? I don't know. I don't care. But we always say, "Oh, we're the real healthy ones because we didn't go along with it." Well, no, we will soon be the unconditioned bodies for whatever they want to bring. Well, so what? Let's say, go run out and rent the movie if you want to. I don't want to be a conditioned body for whatever they want to bring. That's the way I see it. I see it completely different than most of our community. Maybe we're a little healthier now, but again, they can do it. I don't care. I just don't care. I'm never going to go along with it. If it means my own demise, well, so be it. I'm never going to go along with it. Let me run out and let me go back and rent all the Action Jackson Nation movies because, yeah, they're going to bring these frequencies that I need to be conditioned to or whatever. Who cares? So, but in terms of the first grade truther, let's not get too far into the weeds here. No, they're not going to utterly collapse this and that, and you're going to be arguing over that last can of Spam, or they wouldn't have done what they did over the last 25 years. Pretty simple. But again, just escapes, seems like, large portions of our community. So that was a long-winded way of saying that's why movies that show the collapse or the wasteland like Mad Max don't belong here, in my opinion. Or 1984 on steroids, The Hunger Games. Those types of movies, those themes don't belong here because that's not where these creeps want to take things. So that leaves one last position to fill. I doubt anybody, and I mean not one person, will be able to predict what I'm going to put in the final slot here. And then hopefully I can explain why. I'm putting in the movie Legend because of the whatever demon devil character, what it represents. In the old Tom Cruise fantasy movie with the little elves and the legend, the demon creature at the end, is it Tim Curry who played that weird thing in the Rocky Horror Picture Show? He also played the Doctor on The Hunt for Red October. One of the greatest villain characters of all time. And it's just a gigantic truth drop movie about reality itself. First off, why I picked Legend to be here. I think there is a real evil here that is in some way supernatural or spiritual. To me, it's nothing to be afraid of because to me, it's the way this reality was designed. I'm not going to repeat the entire book chapters, but summary in 30 seconds or less. The adversary here is a role player. They didn't hijack the reality. Star Wars needs Darth Vader. This reality system for real spirits to grow needs an asshole element, but it is supernatural to a degree, and it is evil. Now, what other movie is a representation of that kind of evil? Well, They Live to a degree. It's an alien evil presence, but in terms of everything else, The Matrix is a machine. Well, that's not the supernatural evil. A lot of these, whatever, Soylent Green, it's just assholes and groups in authority that take over. I needed a movie that in some way presented a dark evil, but like a supernatural element. Christians call it Satan. I call it not milk. Some people call it a Kaiser blade. Some people call it a sling blade. But it has to be like, it's not just something that can be understood. There's a supernatural or even a spiritual element to it. Tony always said these creeps are not the same spiritual entity that you are. They have a different relationship with higher self. I need a movie in this list that represents that. Now, I don't think, Larry Silverfish transforms into that big red horned devil at the end of when he goes, puts himself to bed at night. Maybe they do, but I needed something to represent that. And I don't think it's quite as dark as that either here, or what a Christian would call Satan, which is what was represented at the end of the Tom Cruise movie Legend, is not Satan or the devil, because at the end he cries out, "Father, Father." That means he's just a lower level demon or devil that came in to destroy, whatever the fantasy world that Tom Cruise lived on, or lived in. So, but that's supernatural. In other words, it's not a good example. Some say The Omen, or I needed a movie or a book in this mall map for a flushed society with that dark, demonic or spiritual or supernatural element. And I needed it to be a little bit less cartoonish than just They Live. They Live by itself didn't do enough for me. But like Soylent Green, with just men being assholes, it's not enough. There's another element here. If you want to just call it pure evil or demonic, I have no problem when those terms are thrown around, because there's no other way to describe the evil here. It's not, you can't use pedestrian means or just the actions of men. But it's not, as bad as the devil creature either, because these creeps are role players inserted, in my opinion, into reality to play a role. Without their role, we would not be anywhere near where we are today in terms of understanding things about reality, understanding ourselves, what we need to do for yourself. We need the asshole elements. We would not be, I don't think I would be even 10% closer to where I am now if it wasn't for this constant examination of what we call not nilk. The role player, in a way, has been extremely useful for us. So this is the end of the movie Legend, the duality, and he gives a big speech about, first grade speech about duality, and then that's a reason, that's another reason that the movie should be here. What is light without? I can't do his voice. Light without dark. That was close. Father, this big duality speech at the end, the dark is necessary. It's like, yeah, it is necessary in these types of realities. The truth drop I've talked about many times in one of those Batman movies with one of my favorite voices to do. Bane, Bane, he's grabbing the guy that was funding and paying all the money. And now the guy that paid him all the money, Bane, in the Batman movie, is going to kill the guy that was paying all the money. He's like, you're that. I can't stand that actor, by the way. He tries, and I just don't like him. I'm sorry. He's probably a nice guy. You're evil. You're necessarily evil. Come down to about time I've all been living under. And then he's, do you feel in charge? That scene, Matt, you'd be happy as a pig and just making little YouTube videos. Forget this truth stuff. Just doing your little imitations and stuff. It'd probably work for about a week, and then have 4 subscribers. But the point is you're evil. He says, yes, necessary evil. Yes, that's what the Larry Silverfish and Santa Claus Schwab and all the rest of them, it's necessary evil. So a spiritual being can actually do what it's supposed to do. It's not hijack. Oh, it should have just been coconut oil on the beach and hard-ons all day long. That's what this reality was meant to be. And then the Lochnar came. Didn't you see the opening scenes of Heavy Metal, Matt? The Lochnar came. The green glow of the Lochnar came into this reality system, Matt, with entities like Melvin, Bill, and Bezo riding at the helm, riding on the green glow like a horse, like the closing scene of Dr. Strangelove with the guy riding the missile, or steering the green glow in like Captain Jack Sparrow. And they all came into this reality system, Matt, which was so pure. Didn't you see the opening scenes of Genesis 1 like it was a movie? Didn't you read the opening of the Bible, Matt, in Genesis 1? It was hijacked. That's what Genesis 1 is telling us. I don't buy it. I think the evil here is, as I said, necessary evil. I believe it's a role player. I don't believe it's the same spiritual entity that we are, and I don't believe it even fully understands its role. But you know what? as bad as it can be sometimes, it's here overall to benefit me so I can accomplish what I'm supposed to accomplish in life and do the worry about yourself activities. To all the people that yell hijacked, I'm not going to do it again. I'd like to do it every single time. To all the people that yell hijacked, you tell me, explain to me, send me a video. What was reality to then before the dark element, or what we call not Nilk, or the minions, or the Lochnar, or all the different ways we can talk and point at things in the police lineup? What was it? Okay, I keep saying it was just a guy under a tree with a bottle of lube, or what was the reality? Just beautiful meadows, and is that? Oh, that's all it was for, huh? Just it's a Ryza vacation planet. Is that what it was? Yeah, it's Ryza. I could do every single video of an entire YouTube channel with no other topics other than this hijack thing. It's just the most. I love the topic because to me it is ridiculous. So we're just sitting around with beautiful beaches. What do you get out of that in terms of spiritual growth? If the planet is a Ryza planet designed to be a vacation for souls and spirits, okay, but is that what this seems like? It should have been a vacation planet for souls and spirits, and the Lochnar came in, but the all-powerful entity that built, or your God that built this reality, didn't notice the evil that got in and couldn't do anything about it? I mean, this is ridiculous. How are we still at this first grade level? Even with, Jesus up on top of the mountain with Satan, well, he put his spiritually broke ass there. Satan's trying to tempt Jesus. You want those Toll Brothers mansions down there? You want those Lennox Homes or Lennar Homes mansions I can offer you? Jesus down there? And she's like, no, I don't want that Chinese prefab horse shit. Jesus wasn't worried about it. And he's like, I put your ass here. You trying to offer me Toll Brothers homes? How do you think you got here? Basically saying Satan. He said, you wouldn't be here without me. It's right from Clerks. I shouldn't even be here today. That the more powerful entity allowed the asshole element in, or the first grade truther believes that the more powerful entity, or your God, or whatever you believe, wouldn't be able to come and clean it up? Jesus, or whoever your God is, or the all-powerful entity associated with higher self that built the Earth reality system, there's an evil element that got in there, and it's got now 1,000 different names, including Lochnar and Anunnaki and Archon. And what you gonna do about it? Oh, hell no! I'm not gonna go in there and fix it. F 'em. Come on, this is ridiculous. What you see out your window, folks, is exactly by design. Okay, let's finish our little mall map here that represents society. I said there's a movie off to the side. Now, this is all the negative, of course, of where the creeps want to take everything. There's one little bridge out, one little movie we're going to add to this. So if you're playing at home, just draw a little tunnel or whatever, etheric bridge out, or per Asgard, the Rainbow Bridge, and it doesn't it's Asgard, not San Francisco. Okay, draw whatever you want. To me, that movie, the end would, for us, for a small group of people, is Dances with Wolves. Through all of this madness, there is a path to do what we're supposed to do here as real, timeless spiritual beings. It's walking away from the society. It's dropping veils. It's seeing the trick. It's doing the spiritual activities, the reason we came here, to drop the fear, to walk away from its attachments and the identification with the straw man and the legal fiction. And there's a path out of all of this. And to me, that movie representation of that is Dances with Wolves. No other movie represents somebody that was completely on one end of the scale, a soldier in the middle of a battle where people are being killed on both sides, plus wanted to commit suicide, the middle of wearing the soldier's uniform, completely involved with the Matrix and the negative aspects of the reality of that time, just pinned up against the worst side of the sliding scale. Kevin Costner in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and represented by that colonel who's, I peed myself and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And then he gets the gun out, and that's a representation of what that's saying to me. Kevin Costner was so close to becoming that. So maybe it was that colonel that's pinned all the way to the wrong side of the sliding scale, but Kevin Costner in the beginning was just one little sliver away from it. And then he goes, this long journey happens to become or walk the path of what kicking bird, a real You've become a real human being. They have to use words like that because it's a movie. They're not going to start using hobo code or whatever. It would have never won no Academy Awards. They have to use words like human and use not no words. Kicking Bird like puts his arm around me. I'm proud of you. You're finally walking the path of a real human being. And he comes the movie is just brilliant in every regard. Matt, how could they have put out a good movie that's actually spiritually beneficial to us? We'll talk about that some other time. Maybe they have to by contract, whatever. But even one of the opening scenes after he survives, obviously puts his arms out on the horse in the Christ type of representation or allusion. Of course it is. But then he takes a long journey. That's all by design. He goes out. Yeah, I'm going to do the voice because I love to do the voice. He gets with that foul. He says the guy's one of the most foul men he's ever been around. Whatever the guy. Hey, Lieutenant, nothing down there, Lieutenant. That guy. He takes a long journey. It's representative. Is that a word? It's a metaphor, and it's also literal. He takes a literal long journey, but he's about to go on a long journey spiritual to leave behind the fake Kevin Costner, the one in the uniform who was trying to kill the other side and completely in the Matrix. It's so perfect in so many regards. Just in the clothes, he eventually abandons his clothes, starts putting on different clothes. He drops all his Jacob Marley chains and attachments. And this is in the movie, it's being shown he has to do this physically. He has to go a long way away. But he's dropping attachments and ties to his old self. He even loses his name. He leaves the straw man legal fiction behind. Whatever, John Dunbar, not Dunbar. Dunbar. And then he starts using his new Sioux name, Susani Tutanka, whatever. I don't know. It's better than Jake Gillendiker Hall. Jake Gillendiker Haller should change his name to Susani Tutanka, whatever, because it's better. It's easier to pronounce than Gillendiker Haller. We'll talk about that remake of Roadhouse soon. But it's so okay. This is book and movie representations of society. Well, if we're going to do this as we're redoing it now, there has to be a way out for a tiny group of us who's leaving all this bullshit behind. Now, we're not going to participate in if you want to bring the next phase of Brazil. We're not going to do that. Go out for coffee and something blows up and we're so used to it, we just continue our conversation about the NFL. Who'd the Eagles trade for? Saquon Barkley? Oh, boom. Oh, what was that? Who cares? Let's just keep talking about the Eagles running game this year. Okay. We need a movie here that represents a way out. We're not trapped here. There's too many clues, too many stuffed Lennons, too many Humpty Dumptys that remind us every day that there's plenty of ways to win. Not hijacked, not trapped, at least for some of us. If you have a better representation of the way out, book or movie, then let me know in the comments and maybe we'll replace Dances with Wolves. But probably could predict that would be, if I had to pick one in terms of the bridge out, that would be the movie that I select, at least at this time. Thanks for listening, guys.